The UCLA line against Bowling Green keeps on cratering down to earth. Is that really how the game's going to play out week 1 against the Falcons? We'll give you more for Locked On UCLA. In the meantime, let's hit that music, baby.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, I am your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, alongside Jake Candy. As we put the wrong graphic up there, let's welcome you. There's Jake. There he is. He's waving hi. You see me. There's Jake. He's one of the Twins, D1 play-by-play broadcaster. He is a from Fox Sports diehard Bruins fan, just like myself. Go UCLA. Go Bruins. We'll get excited. Before we get to that Bruin A-clap, just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. It's your place to get your odds, lines, and games, get your betting fix. As we'll talk about what are the lines UCLA's got versus Bowling Green this weekend in week 1. And that line keeps coming down to earth. We'll got more on that in just a moment. Bruin fans, gets those hands in the air. Let's go, Jake. Get them up. And
so,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight.
UCLA, fight. Hoping I was just waiting it out. I was like, maybe he's sleeping. He like last episode.
I was so sleeping. But hey, I made it make sense. We talked Bowling Green in the beginning of that episode. It's all good. You know what we're talking about? Just don't bring it up. I'm embarrassed. I'm very embarrassed that I may have forgotten a Bruin clap. But here we are. We are right on the precipice of college football starting for our beloved UCLA Bruins. Chip Kelly and company. We're as excited as could be for 2022 in this upcoming season. Week 1 won't exactly be the most exciting week one would expect, but with some lines from BetOnline, what's everybody thinking around the nation with that spread between UCLA and Bowling Green? As we've previewed this matchup all week long, kind of teasing different little matchups here and there, what they're good at, what Bowling Green isn't, going into week 1. Jake, hit us with that line.
First off, any weekend you can bet on college football, it's exciting. I don't care what the spreads are. I don't care what it's exciting. You speak for yourself when you say that. Anyways, the line at the moment.
I guess I'm just saying.
23.
I was just saying it's not okay. So it's 20. I was just saying it's not the. There's 3 important games on UCLA's schedule this year. But if you're a betting man, every game is an important game. So you said the line is now at 23 according to BetOnline.
Correct. It opened, if I'm not 24 and a half. It's now down to 23.
I think it opened closer to 31. If I got that correct, it opened more absurd.
Yeah, even more though. When you get a line like that, though, you know, when you're if anybody is going to touch this game, you know, it's a scary game to touch early college football weekends because you're getting so many. Like any Alabama line, it's like, is Alabama going to cover 43.5 points for me? Like, that's a crazy line to bet. UCLA to cover 25 north of 30 points. That's a scary bet. So if you are going to touch it, you're more than likely going to pick the underdog and say, hey, hopefully they can keep 4.5 touchdowns here. So when that happens, if people are playing the game, your line is going to drop more back down to a closer matchup. And now it's down to 23, even out there. I don't see it getting to like 22 or even 22.5. I kind of still like the Bruins. The matchup favors UCLA in the sense that Bowling Green stopped the run in the last episode. That's all UCLA is going to do this weekend. They're going to want to run the ball. And when I tend to bet, I'm going to look at the trenches. Like if I'm going to be comfortable with somewhere, who's going to win the trenches? So if I'm going to bet on somebody to cover this line, I would say UCLA is going to be way better and more experienced up front, help them run the ball like they should, and they should be able to get rolling. I think UCLA could cover the 23 and should cover the 23 in my opinion.
If UCLA wants to have an impressive showing week 1, covering that 23-point spread is a must. What other lines we got from BetOnline? I know you're looking for some player props. Couldn't get those. Where are the other ones?
I couldn't find them. I'm sure it could just be because it's too far away from kickoff when you get closer to Saturday. those player props might happen. So I will mention this though, if you can find them, because I will be looking for them. I will say Thompson-Robinson. It's probably going to be at 1.5 his turnovers. If it's 1.5, under 1.5 turnovers sounds cool. Super veteran
This is where
quarterback.
I'll stop you there, though. I will stop you there. I want to interrupt you because that Bowling Green defense picked off opponents 9 times and I think recovered close to 6 fumbles, if I got that number correct. So they did turn over the quarterback, but this is a veteran quarterback, a fifth-year guy, the first ever Pac-12 quarterback to have started 5 years. So
I agree.
that's just
I
that's
think
so
you make a good point, which could the odds in your favor, but that they are going to struggle to stop UCLA's run offense, which means I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to have an overwhelming amount of opportunity to turn the ball over. I don't see him airing it out 25, 30 times and putting himself in an opportunity reception. Maybe I guess the fumble would worry you. Obviously, throughout his career, at times he maybe has been vulnerable to fumble the ball. That would worry, but I can't see him losing 2 of them. I can't see him losing 2 fumbles. Then if it's at 1.5, I would say under on Dorian Thompson-Robinson turnovers. Just veteran quarterback against a MAC opponent. The defense just seems like an absolute steal of a play. And defense or special teams touchdown score plus
oof.
190 for yes. I also love that bet. I think when you get these Power 5 schools against, MAC is a good conference and they're going to have a lot of great athletes. This veteran UCLA team, I mean, this seems ripe for either punt block touchdown or some type of return touchdown. I think
In
that's
the
a
last
very, very
decade,
juicy plus
UCLA's
190.
Yeah, in this last decade, UCLA, I believe, has blocked over 20 various kicks, whether it be field goals, punts, all sorts of things. You have a front for Bowling Green offensively that was one of the worst teams at protecting their quarterback, stop getting opening running lanes for the run. So they have tackles for loss. That's going to let itself be more for the possible fumbles. Let it be the quarterback getting sacked. That could leave the ball loose on the grounds. And just, everybody's want to get the football, like Pop's in the background there. He wants to get the football. He wants to get ready.
Guy's trying to get on my shine. He sees the camera on my shine. You know what I'm saying? That's just,
It's all
it's
good. It's
somebody
all
going to
good.
drop in between my dad and the dog.
It's all good. Any other numbers to drop on us, or is that all you could find? Any other?
No,
I know you're. Okay,
I'm like, I
hit us
have
with one
definitely
more.
more. I have more.
Hit us
This
with
one
one more.
also
One more.
longest touchdown over or under 5.5 yards. The under
Over.
is plus 104. The over is minus 139. You would say over. I would also say over, but
I love big
minus
play.
one.
I love big plays.
Absolutely, and I just said a return is probably possible. So I would say if you want to bet, I would bet if I'm betting the touchdown special teams bet, we also bet that big play bet because you could nail both of those in one play if you get 65-yard punt down, something like that. That's just 2 bets. Right, hurry.
We're as you can see, we're expecting a lot of good things to happen in this game, which is what will come up as we talk about the UCLA best and worst case scenarios for this game against Bowling Green. But first, let's bring you some words about how to drive safely on the roads nowadays. Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction time slows way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. If you drive high, you get a DUI. Just don't do it. It's not smart. It's not worth your time. As we welcome back in Jake Handy, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, as we're talking Locked On UCLA. Just went over some numbers from BetOnline. Now, what's kind of more of a fan perspective here? What do we think is the best case scenario, worst case scenario, UCLA football against Bowling Green, their second ever game against the MAC? So many different storylines for various things. And this is where we're going to drop 4 storylines, 2 offensive, 2 for each side, 1 offense, 1 defense. Okay, UCLA. We've talked about the spread. We talked about what they want to do offensively. They want to come out and send a message offensively and defensively. Offense, they want to say, all right, we can score at will. We should. They one of the best offenses in the Pac-12. They could run the ball really well. Chip Kelly's back. They all just want to kind of this mantra for UCLA this game is send a message, especially with their new defensive coordinator, Bill McGovern. They want to send a message. Put the nation on notice that the Bruins are here as players for a big bowl game, maybe as a dark horse for something even bigger in what could be a dream 2022 season. For Bowling Green, they've got some SoCal connections. Their quarterback is coming back home. He's the fourth McDonald to play in the Rose Bowl. He's playing for something. He's a SoCal kid. It's a homecoming. He wants to stand out. The defense for Bowling Green, they want to punch the Bruins in the mouth and say they're not to be messed with. They're coming off a big Power 5 win last year. Why not make it 2 years in a row? Best case and worst case with Zach and Jake as we continue on with Locked On UCLA. So what do you want, Jake? Should we go bad or good? What do you like, good news or bad news first?
Bad news first every time. I'm like, it's like a band-aid. Just let's do I'm the bad
Rip it
news
off.
first guy.
Okay, so we're going to rip it off right here. Worst case scenario for the Bruins. And we're not talking exactly injuries. We're talking what looks bad on the field. What looks bad on
And I would
TV,
say,
on the field.
oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go right ahead. Go right ahead. What were you going to say?
I would say, in the sense of like best case scenario, of course, score 100 points, but let's keep it realistic, and abiding from his loss. Worst case scenario obviously is going to involve a lot on that. I would say worst case scenario, your defense gives up more than 20. I would say you're going to want to hold this, no more than 4 points. Worst case scenario, your defense is going to give up 3 or 4 touchdowns to a lackluster Bowling Green team. So you're going to turn the ball over, and you're not going to be able to run it the way you end up in a nail biter situation. Win or win a game 21-17, it'll feel good, but that's part of like the worst case scenario where it's like that's a lackluster win, where in the eyes of the media and in the eyes of people voting for top 25 and this and that be an eyesore. That's a win, but it's a blemish on your record. So that would be, to me, worst case scenario would be defense giving up 25-30 points to a lackluster team. Your offense isn't rolling. Maybe DTR doesn't look so veteran. And that's going to fall under worst case scenario for me, for sure.
If you get a close win in conference play, even if it's against a bad opponent, like UCLA starts conference on the road at Colorado, a close win wouldn't look good there. But any close win in conference play is a little different than having to play a close game against any of their 3 non-conference opponents. Bowling Green, that's one thing.
100%.
Alabama State next week, that's a completely different story. But here we are, Bowling Green. While we preface worst case scenario, they did beat Minnesota last year 14-10 on the road, a team that only went 4-8, this Falcons squad, with their 4th-year head coach Scott Loeffler, 2nd-year defensive coordinator Eric Lewis. They've got a longtime quarterback, Matt McDonald. He's a super senior, came from Boston College, followed as offensive coordinator, now head coach at for the Falcons, the MAC. They actually got one media vote to win their MAC division. They got a media vote, so they're also a slight dark horse here and there in their own conference's division, maybe not to win the conference overall. For UCLA, worst case scenario, I think it would be a 42 to maybe not 42. I would say if they give up 28 points defensively, if they give up 28 points, which we've seen at times, the defense in recent years has struggled. This is a unit that's showcasing a lot more veteran presence on the secondary. Got some guys, some familiar faces, some guys UCLA fans are excited about in the front 7. But if you're giving up points, not generating turnovers against an offensive line that, despite being reworked and having some experience for Bowling Green, 1 more year of experience, they're very young. UCLA, if they don't have more than 2 sacks this game, more than 3 tackles for loss this game, if they allow Bowling Green to go up and down the field, they got a quarterback who loves to throw it and is red hot at the end of his 2021 campaign. Hasn't thrown a pass in his last 115, hasn't thrown an interception, in his last 115 passes. Red hot, 7 TDs to 1 pick over the last 6 games. Feeling good, coming back home. He could maybe light up the Bruins more than they're expecting with the secondary, who was ready to fly the football, be a hawk and get picks. If they don't get, I say, 2 turnovers, if they don't get, a plenty of tackles for loss, sacks, if they don't just show that this is a different unit. UCLA fans were waiting to get a change in defensive coordinator, waiting to kind of flip the script. And now the Bruins finally have it. The defense really needs to show. And while all the eyes will be on the offense, I think if the defense doesn't show up, that's worst case scenario. You give up 28 points, regardless of how the offense looks, that would be a worst case scenario for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. If you're out here, you're a 23-point favorite, and if 23, 25 points and letting them march down the field, I mean, you're going to walk away from this game feeling very discouraged.
Okay. We got that. Wipe off the bat. Get it away. Get it out of your system. Get that bad juju, whatever it is. Get it all out of here. Get out of here. Throw it to the side, whip it to the other side. Just all right. Make sure you're hydrated. Be good. We're gonna talk about the good things. Time to talk about best case scenario. I'm gonna start. Best case scenario for UCLA against Bowling Green. Heisman DTR. I mean, no, not after week one. Not after week one. We joked about this, maybe not joke, but talked about it in more serious length in one of our earlier pilot episodes to Locked On UCLA in the relaunch. But UCLA DTR, if the senior comes out, he's got so many records. He could kind of creep up the career records list and maybe break in this next year, his last year, where if he plays 13, 14 games, he could find himself close to the top in most of these lists. Best case scenario, DTR, Charbonnet look like Heisman candidates after week one. Jake Bobo catches 2 touchdowns. We talked about the prop line bets from BetOnline about how, big play touchdowns. If they can get
54 and a half yards, the mark.
54, yeah, 54 and a half yards. I would say you get 3 sustained touchdown drives, 3 big play touchdowns. You get 6 touchdowns. That's 42 points from the offense. We talked about the block kicks. You get a defensive turnover. I say 3 turnovers forced defensively. I mentioned what's the worst case scenario? Best case scenario, you get those 3 sacks. You get those, on average, Bowling Green allowed per game was 7 tackles for loss because the running game was so bad last year. So you have to set the bar high for this Bruins defense to really prove to themselves that when they're trying to stop the run, which they've gotten better over the last few years, scheming wise, and can they do that now with a new defensive coordinator? Can UCLA really take advantage of a porous front from Bowling Green from these last few years? They're looking to fix it, yes, but UCLA, if they can dominate, do good, get lots of big plays, look really explosive, and put up 40 plus points. 50 points? That's maybe asking a little too much against a strong Bowling Green team that we've already talked about can stop you from throwing the ball. Won't exactly stop you from running the ball, but I'm just thinking UCLA, look big, win big, and make Bowling Green say, all right, we're not afraid of the Rose Bowl, but they might be afraid of that Arroyo Seco Heat by the time they leave Pasadena.
Yeah, definitely going to be a scenario. Zach Charbonnet and Dorian Thompson-Robinson don't take a snap in the second. But beyond that, I think you nailed it. About as close to 50 as you can get. Like if you get to 50, that's on the best case scenario. I think you're right. I mean, to ask, hey, go get 50 points is kind of a crazy ask. So if you can still achieve best case scenario. But yeah, kind of start creeping close to 50 points. And you nailed the 2 names. Dorian Thompson Robinson and Zach need to look like 2 guys that are going to carry you through a conference play in a conference here on your way out of the Pac-12. You just go out with a bang and show everybody been happier to keep you around. That way, and then on top of that, show depth. When you get your stars out of the game early, have your backups come in and be effective and show that they are also in tune with the game plan. That would be best case scenario. Show you have depth and show your backups are replacements. God forbid some type of injury were to happen.
We don't want any bad beats. If there's a bad beat, we want it to be in another game for some other completely reason. We want the only bad beats for
Yeah.
UCLA to come on Bowling Green's side, and which is just simply nothing bad, just more, all right, they dropped the ball. Just different things, right? Just clean football for UCLA. The bad beat, maybe a penalty. Just play clean football, force
Bad PI
turnovers.
call. Bound to happen.
Oh, come on, Pac-12 officials, everybody knows. We already know. UCLA, biggest thing in this key. You mentioned with the prop bet DTR and his turnover possibilities. UCLA, when they turn it over, 19 times their last 8 losses, they've turned it over. 19 turnovers. So it's clear what is the key to, yes, they don't have a defense they haven't had a defense that can overcome so much bad play or so many key mistakes offensively. This year, they could build towards that, but they have the offense that should not at this point with the veteran presences they have all throughout. They have dynamic playmakers, guys who can be smart, strong special teams they expect with some key returners and some very stable punt returners with Jake Bobo being slotted what looks to be as the key punt returner for the majority of the season. Kaz Allen, the kickoff returner, if they even decide to kick it to him. It's just limit your mistakes. That's another thing I would probably add as we end this episode of Locked On UCLA. Limit your mistakes. Okay, penalties, one thing, but it's the turnovers that have made UCLA look so sloppy. I went back and watched that UCLA SC win over SC, where UCLA put up 62 points. DTR still had so many turnovers. Still threw quite a few picks in that first half. It's can they get all the good without any bad to go with it?
Yeah, I agree with you. You come to realize, I think you just like to say Jake. I think you just like saying that.
I mean, I think you'll start to like saying it when he catches 2 touchdowns for 120 yards in the first half,
I
if
agree.
that's
I
best
think
case scenario.
anytime you get the opportunity, though, you're name drop in there. Jake Bobo. It just sounds so good. It just sounds so good.
Mr. Bobo, what's up? Oh man, anything you like to add as far as like your best case scenario? Apparently, you like saying Jake Bobo, same name, same face cream.
Best
Who
case
knows? I don't know.
scenario, I get to Jake Bobo in the first quarter. Look at this guy already making plays. Best case scenario. Now, I would say
Okay,
running games on point, your stars are out, and your depth shows viability. That scenario. When you get your stars, like you said, it's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of turnover in this game. A lot of different guys are probably going to play. Hopefully, when your stars are out, that shows confidence, and that's how you build and really are going to put together a good season. You're going to need every guy on the roster. It's very cliche, but football, amongst many other sports, is a sport where guys get dinged up. They might miss one game here, one game there. So you're going to need everybody on the same page. You're going to need everybody with confidence, feeling like they should be in the game and can compete when they get be the biggest thing to look for. It's easy to write when a game does become a blowout. If this game becomes a blowout, that's the story to line to look to. How are the threes playing?
my thing is these first 3 games. I want UCLA. I don't know if this is even a stat, but I want UCLA to set a program record for most walk-ons and most little known players, most seldom used players, like threes, as deep as the depth chart goes. I want them to break a program record for touchdowns scored or tackles made or
Snaps
points attributed,
played,
whatever. Yeah,
whatever.
I want a program record. This is a direct plea to Chip Kelly. Whatever it is, this first 3 games, we want all the walk-ons. We want everybody who does not see playing time, usually, and in a regular game where the game was a little closer against a tougher foe, whoever it is, then like an SC in Oregon, a Utah, Bowling Green, they'll come to fight for sure. They're going to come and smack UCLA in the mouth. It's just, will it be for 5 minutes or will it be for a complete game? We don't know. My thing is, I just want as many walk-ons, as many guys who just got scholarships, who earned it, to get touchdowns, playing time, snaps, make big plays, impact the game. I want that to happen. If we're saying it's so easy of a schedule, I want to see these guys almost blow through their quote-unquote redshirt availability. You only can play 4 games in a year and still maintain your redshirt. I want so many of these guys to play in these first 3 games that Chip Kelly's just like, man, our starters haven't even had good numbers because all the backups are playing so well. That's what
I
we want.
agree. I agree.
That's best case scenario over these 3 games. I'll bring it up. Each of these non-conference games, we want all the guys who do not get much recognition, whether it's from all the fan sites, whether it's the reports online, whether it's from us that we don't even talk about. I'm not even sure who I'm talking about, but we'll know about who we're talking about come next week when we have Reaction Monday. Oh, this guy did so good. And it's not a DTR. Maybe it's Chase Griffin who comes in and does something with all his accolades off the field. Who knows what it is? Just there's different guys who can do different things. I like to see a Hudson Habermill touchdown. That's what I want.
I agree, and it's important to keep your big guns fresh when conference play, starts. You want them already dinged up and having so many snaps and whatnot. Zach Charbonnet already ran for 5,000 yards. It feels like, in 30 touchdowns. It feels like last year. He did all that. It's okay. Keep him for conference play starts. He'll run right through everybody again.
Thanks again for making Locked On UCLA your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview for 2022. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. Your local team experts on the Locked On Podcast Network give you betting angles from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview in 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment to the Locked On UCLA YouTube channel, and make sure to comment, rate, give us 5 stars, hopefully, on the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts as well. For Jay Candy, thanks for joining the pod. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thank you very much for tuning in, giving us love. Follow the show Twitter at Locked On Bruins. Football is here. We've waited enough nonsense. We can finally react to something, not just practice or a Chip Kelly quote or something. We have something we can talk about with substance, with actual substance, come the first episode we'll drop next week. Reaction Monday. I want to talk about the walk-on scoring touchdowns. That is what I want. But maybe a little short second. We're going to do this right now. Get your hands up, Bruin fans. Bruin 8 clap to end this show. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA, fight. Yeah, we like the lag. It's all good.
I'm excited.
This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.